Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and today we're going to be going over the 15 reliable daily drivers, whatever you want to call it. If you want it to be reliable and a daily, there you go. If you just want a reliable car and you want to turn it into a project, here you go too. But it doesn't matter, there's 15 of them and they're all reliable and they're all under $3,000. So if you're on a tight budget, who else but Mark, okay, is going to give you some good options. You know, it's your boy. I'm going to hook you up. We got 15 of them today. Song of the day, by the way. I don't ever do this before, but I'm acting like it's something that we do normally. Song of the day is June 22nd by Lil TJ. Go listen to it. I just heard it for the first time today, and oh my god, that's a good song. Obviously, only if you like rap music. If you don't like rap music, then song of the day is She Had Me at Heads Carolina by Cole Swindle. I think that's his name. It's a country song. If you don't like country music, I don't know what else to tell you, buddy. I'm sorry. Coming in at the number 15 spot location area is the Scion TC first generation. Now I know what you're thinking. I know what you're thinking. First of all, I want to make this really clear before I tell you what you're thinking. I am going to make it clear. I am not going to be going over the engines of these cars and the horsepower that they make, because if you're looking for a car for reliability, you probably couldn't care less how much horsepower it makes. So we're not going to be going over that stuff today. Usually we do, but today we're not going to. But I know what you're thinking though. All right, I still know what you're thinking. You thought I forgot what you're thinking? I didn't. The Scion TC isn't reliable. It can't be. It's a sports car. It's a coupe. It can't be reliable. You're wrong, buddy. Because guess what? Scion, in case you didn't know, is owned by Toyota. Well, they were owned by Toyota. I'm pretty sure they're out of business now. But they were owned by Toyota, okay? And when they were owned by Toyota, Toyota was slapping all their stinky, smelly motors in all these cars. So guess what motor came in the Scion TC? A Camry motor, buddy. And if you mean to tell me that a Camry is not a reliable car, then let me know where you live, because I'll come over there and I'll slap you in the face. What? Coming in at the number 14 spot is another car that I feel like people might think is unreliable, and I kind of understand why. It's the Audi A4 B5. And the reason why people commonly, I would say that the A4 is unreliable is due to the fact that the S4 is pretty unreliable. The S4 comes with a twin turbo V6 and makes a lot of horsepower, and it's a really great car, but the reliability is definitely pretty poor. However, the A4 is a completely different car with a completely different motor, and it's significantly more reliable. Audi A4s in general have always been reliable. The reason why I'm putting the B5 here is because I personally love the B5. I think it looks beautiful. It's by far my favorite of the Audi 4 line. I don't know what you would call it, but that line. But you could definitely get an A4 B6 if you don't like the B5, or a B7 for under 3K as well. I would recommend sticking with the B5 or the B6. If you're looking for a B7, you could find them under 3K, but they're just, you know, they're a little bit rough under 3K. Coming in at 13th location is going to one of my favorite cars, and all you guys seem to like it too, which makes me happy. It's a Subaru Forester, first or second gen. That's the SF or the SG. Either one of them are pretty much exactly the same car. They come with exactly the same motor, exactly the same horsepower. If you want a little bit more like new technology and nicer interior and stuff like that, obviously I would recommend getting the second generation, but I also personally think that the first gen looks better than the second gen, so it's kind of just personal preference, whichever one you'd rather have. And these cars are amazing. I mean, Subaru has a bad tendency for a bad reputation for their head gasket issues, and they do have head gasket issues. My dad even says that, and he used to work at Subaru for a while, so it's definitely true. They have head gasket issues, but the number one problem with those head gaskets is when you buy a naturally aspirated Subaru and add a turbo to it. That's usually when they start to, you know, act up. And so definitely don't try to make this Forester into any sort of like race car. Just have a nice little daily driver hatchback thing that has a ton of space. Speaking of daily driver hatchbacks that have a ton of space, number 12 is the Volkswagen GTI Mark V. You could even find a Golf if you're too scared of the GTI badge for under 3K as well. I would recommend just going with the GTI, dude. The fact that you could get a GTI for under 3K in today's market is insane. So I would stick with that. But like I said, if you want the Golf, if the GTI part scares you, because yes, this car is turbocharged, yes, it is a sports car that has, you know, decent amount of horsepower, the Golf can also be found under there. I personally don't think it's really worth it, because like I said, the GTI is still a very reliable car. Just because they turbos on it doesn't mean that it's unreliable automatically. I think people always kind of like see that and they're like, oh, it's going to be unreliable. That's just not the case. There are millions of turbocharged vehicles out there that are incredibly reliable, and the GTIs are one of them. GTIs are obviously seen all the time as daily drivers, and there's a reason why. Coming in at the number 11 spot, I'm helping out you truck boys, but not like you actual truck boys, because you actual truck boys are only like turbo diesel. If it ain't a turbo diesel, I don't want it. So we're kind of like the truck boys that don't really care too much about having like the turbo diesel ones. The Chevy Colorado is the car we're talking about today, and I know what you're thinking. You know, the Chevy Colorado, it's not that glorious. It's not a fighter, you know? It ain't something like, you're not going to look at the Chevy Colorado and say to yourself, that one looks like, that's like Daryl Dixon of the truck world. No. It's more like the Glen of the truck world, right? It gets the job done. It's a smart little investment. It's not going to tow a freaking space shuttle around, but you don't need it to tow a space shuttle around. It does the job. And on top of that, these Chevy Colorados are lighter than a turbo diesel truck, obviously. So if you are the kind of person that likes to have fun in your vehicles and do donuts and things like that, then I would recommend just getting the Colorado, buddy. Coming into the number 10 spot is a car that seemingly just does not appreciate. They are just like stuck at their price range, and they always will be. It's the Volvo 240. I don't get it. It's a great thing. I mean, I'm super happy with it. I mean, I don't want the Volvo 240s to skyrocket in price, but it literally makes no sense. I mean, so many people talk about the Volvo 240. I talk about it all the time. Other YouTubers talk about it. Everybody knows the Volvo 240 is a great car. It's an amazing car. However, the people selling them are just like, you know what? I'll let it go for free. Here you go. Come take it off my hands. It's mind-blowing how cheap these things are. Obviously, yes, they're reliable, but on top of just being incredibly reliable, they're also very safe for their time. Now, a lot of cars back in the 90s, 80s era were not that safe. They didn't have the best safety features. The Volvo 240, however, is pretty much just like a new car in terms of their safety features. So if you're worried about that kind of stuff, there you go. It is rear-wheel drive, so keep that in mind, but it makes low horsepower. You should be fine. Another car that's rear-wheel drive, but this one doesn't make low horsepower, is the Lexus SC400. Now, you could also probably find an SC300 under 3K. I wouldn't really recommend that. There really isn't much point in doing that, because here's the thing, right? The Lexus SC300, the reason why people like that one over the 400 is because it comes with a manual. The 400 does not. It comes only automatic. But if you're buying a 300 for under 3K, it's not going to come with the manual. You're only finding an automatic. So at that point, if you're getting an automatic 300 and an automatic 400 for the same price, let's just say for the sake of this argument, the same miles too, why would you get the 300 over the 400? It really doesn't make any sense. In my opinion, the 1UZ is a significantly better motor than the 2J, not the 2JZ GE. The GTE is obviously much better, but the GE I think is worse than the 1UZ. And the 1UZ is also one of the most reliable motors of all time. Look at the LS400. Coming in at the number 8 spot is going to another little sports car that you might think to yourself, since it's a little sporty, like, you know, tuner car, that it's not reliable, but you're wrong, is the Acura Integra. Think of it this way: when you think of like old Acuras and old cool Honda sports cars, and you always think to yourself, oh, well, there's probably unreliable because it's slightly sportier than your average car. Just remember that Acura back in the day just literally took motors from other cars and put them in other cars. So the Integra is pretty much, honestly, just a Civic. It really is. The LS, at least. The GSR and the Type R are obviously different cars, but the LS Integra, which is the one you're finding in the 3K, is literally just a Civic. So would you buy a Civic, a 2000 Civic, for less than 3K? Obviously you would, because it's the 2000 Civic. I mean, they're literally like notoriously one of the most reliable cars ever. The Integra is the same way. I have an Integra. I've never had an issue with it, at least for motor wise. I've had like small issues, like the window doesn't work, but it's a great car. Coming in at the number 7 spot is going to a car that hopefully will just make one of my comments happy. The Toyota Solara. I admittedly don't know much about the Solara, and I know there's different generations of this, but I'm just going to put them all here. Toyota in general has always just been very, very reliable, and this guy is always constantly commenting and like, hey man, you should include the Solara. And so here it is. I mean, it's probably incredibly reliable. It's probably a great choice, but I'm not going to dread on it too much because, like I said, it's just, I don't know much about it. Coming in at the number 6 spot, however, is going to another Lexus, pretty much another Toyota. There's a lot of Toyotas on this list. Get used to it. It's the Lexus GS300. If you want a 2JZ for cheap, I recommend this car over all the others because, again, like I said with the SC that we were talking about earlier, yes, this car is not offered with a manual transmission. But if you're spending 3K on a Lexus with a 2J under the hood, you are not finding one with a manual transmission anyway. So either way, you don't get a manual. And the ones that's going to be in the best condition is without a doubt the GS300, because the SC400s and the IS300s are both cars that people really, really want and are very wanted vehicles. The GS300, on the other hand, really isn't. On top of that, it has more luxury. Yes, it's a little bit heavier. It has more space, though. It's just, in my opinion, a much better car for the price than an IS300 or SC300. Coming in at the number 5 spot is going to a Jetta. The Jetties. The Volkswagen Jetta Mark III. Now, you could also find a Mark IV. You could find a Mark V. You could even probably find a Mark VI if you looked hard enough for under 3K. But I'm going to talk about the Mark III just because I want to change it up a little bit. I never talk about the Mark III Volkswagens. In case you're wondering, yes, Jettas pretty much come with exactly the same motors as the Golfs, but on top of that, they also have a TDI option, meaning that you can get a diesel powered Jetta. And as we all know, diesel is incredibly reliable. They're so good on gas. They run for freaking miles. Look at the Mercedes diesels. The old Mercedes diesel vehicles are like incredibly reliable, and it's the same way with these Volkswagens, dude. If you buy a Jetta with a TDI, I would recommend a Mark IV TDI. If you're looking for literally just reliability, a Mark IV TDI Jetta is insane. Coming in at 4th place, though, is a car that I always constantly say is one of the best options for like a high schooler or for a first car for under 3K, and I'm going to stick by that. It's the Acura TL 3rd generation. The TL literally just checks off all boxes, dude. It's got the looks of a nice little sporty sedan. It looks like a European, like, you know how like all the European guys make the cool sedans, BMW, Audi, Mercedes, they make all those. It looks like one of those. It's got the speed to back it up. It has like 250 horsepower. It's got the reliability of a Honda because it's a freaking Honda. It's got the luxury of the inside of a nice little car. Obviously, it's not going to be like you're driving an S-Class, but it's a nice little luxury on the inside. It comes with a manual transmission. It can look even better. It has aftermarket support. It really does check all the boxes. But the number one thing here, the reason why it's on this list, is because it's a Honda, and it's incredibly reliable. Now, it does come with a V6 instead of the inline 4s that most Hondas come with, but that doesn't matter. It's still very, very reliable. 3rd place, however, is going to go to the 1st generation of the Volvo S60. Now, this is not the S60R, so for people looking for a 300 horsepower all-wheel drive monster, which, by the way, is an amazing car, I'm sorry, but that's not this one. But the normal S60 is still a very good option. They don't, they're not, the S60, I'm going to be honest, is not meant to be a sports car. That's the S60R. If you want to be fast and have a fun car, the S60R is for that. The S60 is just a front-wheel drive, daily driver, commuter car that is reliable and safe to drive. Volvo always is really good at doing that. They make very safe, reliable cars to drive. Now, the only thing that is bad about Volvo that you got to watch out for is when something does break, because inevitably something will, it is a little more expensive to buy parts for. Volvo is a Swedish company. They're not super popular, so definitely keep that in mind. But everything else is amazing about it. But a list about reliability would not be a list at all if you didn't mention a Toyota Camry. And so 2nd place is the 5th generation of the Toyota Camry. Now, honestly, any Camry under 3K is a good option. The only reason why I put the 5th gen here is because I think it looks pretty cool, and it's one of the newer ones that you can get for under 3K. So I put it here. I don't know much about Camrys. I'm not the biggest, like, Camry guy, but obviously they have a serious reputation of being one of the most reliable cars of all time. These cars sell incredibly, incredibly well. People drive them for tons of miles. There's a reason why you see still like 1998 Camrys lumping around looking like they're freaking on train tracks, but they're making it. They're making it. They might have 400,000 miles under the hood, but they're going to get there. There's a video I watched of this guy. He took the oil out of the engine of the Camry and drove it to the shop to get an oil change. It was the funniest thing ever, but it was also incredible to see how reliable these motors are. But in my opinion, the best car, if you're looking for just reliability, that you can buy for under 3K is the 8th generation of the Honda Civic. The reason why is for multiple reasons. A, this is a car channel, so obviously, yes, when I talk about cars, I'm talking about cars that I enjoy and cars that I think you would also enjoy. And so the Honda Civic, even though it may not be as reliable as the Camry, I feel like that's an argument that could be made for either side, but even though it may not be as reliable to some people as the Camry, I think the 8th gen Civic, you're just going to have a lot more fun and be a lot happier owning than the Camry. Civics in general have always had like a kind of reputation of being a tuner car. So if you ever do get bored of just driving it from point A to point B, you can modify it. You can make it look cool without touching the engine so that you keep the reliability, but now it looks awesome. And these cars do look cool. On top of that, they're obviously incredibly, incredibly reliable. They come with incredible motors. Honda's always made incredible inline 4s, and this is no exception. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video of the top 15 most reliable cars that you can buy for under $3,000. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos that you'd like to see in the comment section down below. I have pasta waiting for me upstairs. So I'm probably gonna head out and eat that right now. But yeah, let me know what other videos you'd like to see. I know a lot of you guys are probably like, where's all the good, bad, and uglies? The upload schedule has been horrible lately, and I know it is. But I've been going through a little bit of a stomach issue, so I've been trying to kind of deal with that a little bit, guys. I hope you understand. And on top of that, I uploaded the video like 2 days ago, and immediately it was copyright striked and taken down. I was gonna fight my mother, and I don't do that. I love my mother, nice lady. I was gonna fight her. I was challenging her to a hand of fisticuffs right at the time. I was like, put them up. But she didn't want to take the offer. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.